Hello, I am Alain Toon from Narato, and I'm here to talk to you about test-driven development and, of course, unit testing and how to introduce them into an existing project. As a software developer and a consultant, I've been in various teams where they practiced TDD vigorously, almost religiously. And I've been in teams where they almost completely ignored unit testing and testing in general. Unsurprisingly, both types of projects exhibited problems, but the latter more often had the problems that stem from a lack of test-driven development. The suspicious cycle of having to fix repeating bugs, new features that break old functionality, and parts of the code that no one really wants to touch, but are in dire need of refactoring. Now, I'm not here to tell you that test-driven development and unit tests are the ultimate solution to your software development problems. It will not allow you to write 100% bug-free code, perfectly designed, that will work until the end of times. No, TDD and unit testing is just another tool in your arsenal to provide high-quality, maintainable, and reusable software solutions. Many arguments have been made for and against test-driven development, and even more discussions, methodologies, and techniques have been discussed on how to implement these. But since me, and I'm presuming all of you, do not want to be here until the end of times, I will not be covering everything about it. More explicitly, I want to explain to you the why and when you want to use TDD mixed in with some tips and tricks on how to introduce them into an existing project, and of course, how to convince your team members of the benefits of test-driven development so that they can help you improve your code base. First things first, what is test-driven development? A lot of developers know about unit testing, and they will automatically assume that TDD is all about these unit tests. They will say that the big advantage of test-driven development is exactly those unit tests, that they provide you with this all-encompassing shield of tests that will allow you to write 100% bug-free codes. And the obvious big disadvantage would be the time and effort to write these tests. And then in the end, they hope that the lack of bug fixing will mitigate the enormous time sink of having to write these tests. This is very much a flawed concept of test-driven development, and unsurprisingly, managers and product owners that hold this vision will tell you not to waste time writing tests and just get it right the first time. They are under pressure to provide value, and in their minds they are making the decision to provide the most value in the least amount of time. So we would have to come up with a more correct and positive explanation of test-driven development, because yes, it does yield a bunch of unit tests, which is great. Having all those tests in place allows you faster development times, a safer programming environment, and makes real refactoring possible. But the tests are not the main point. If they were, it wouldn't matter if you wrote the tests before or after your code, although writing them before will certainly help you with the discipline of writing them at all. But just tests are not enough. They just confirm that the code does what you think it should do. They do not help you with thinking about edge cases or other issues beforehand. So, do we want to write unit tests before development? Obviously, we would need to think about what and how we want to test. Not so long ago, I was working for a client, and they asked me to implement an indexation feature on a software that manages clients' contracts, among other things. And they asked me, based on the date of the contract and the date you put in, give me back a list and we will apply the indexation percentage on that. So let's take that as an example. Ask ourselves what kind of tests we want to run. First of all, we have to check if the correct lists of contracts are returned. Automatically, more questions pop into your mind when you think about that. How are we gonna decide on this correct list of contracts? They have multiple dates: start date, end date, creation date. What date are we gonna use on the indexation screen? was the correct percentage applied? Turns out contracts have all kinds of prices. Which one should we index, or should we index them all? And more importantly, the question, what if those contracts were already invoiced or partially invoiced? You can't just change the prices on them. Turns out we should make a copy in a future date and apply the indexation there. So asking those questions already gives us a third test, check if it copies the correct contracts and merely updates the non-invoiced ones. So you see, simply this act of forcing yourself to think about what tests you want to write will help you realize edge cases and serious issues before even writing a single line of code, even before you wrote your tests. We realize our code will have to provide ways to interact with our tests. We will have to expose an API that our code can reach, and preferably without depending on any other part of the application. And this is where we come to the crux of the matter. Simply the act of thinking how we want to test is improving our future code. It is exposing clear-cut interfaces and code design that not only helps make your code more testable, but also more loosely coupled and separated, which will make it more maintainable and reusable. So, test-driven development is a method that will improve your future code design, resulting in a better architecture and a cleaner code base. Having a bunch of unit tests is just a happy side effect. This is why it's sometimes referred to as test-driven design.